you might recognize that tune. It's that time of year again. Well, sort of. Actually, by the time this airs, it actually might be that time of year. The Philadelphia Orchestra is about to do its recordings for our digital platform, our digital concert hall, and we are recording a number of pieces over the next 2 weeks, including the Nutcracker. So it is Christmas time, or the holiday season in November. Nutcracker, of course, is almost like not the holiday season without the Nutcracker for most people. And I had the great pleasure of playing the Nutcracker when I was in the Grand Rapids Symphony 44 times over 4 years. That's right, 44 times over 4 years. Now, many of you might be thinking, wow, that's so many times to play the Nutcracker. Well, you know, in some ballet orchestras, people play the Nutcracker as many as 44 times in 1 month. So yeah, 44 times over for 4 years is not that big of a deal for some. But we would sometimes play it twice in a day. We do a matinee and then do an evening concert. Otherwise, it just ran in the evenings. And I know even here in Philadelphia, the Pennsylvania Ballet would do it as many as 3 times in a day. I think like 11 o'clock show, and then a 2 o'clock show, and then like an 8 o'clock show or something like that. Just incredible, but people love their Nutcrackers. So I have a little fun story to tell. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, and this is my golden immunity Nutcracker. I was given this golden immunity Nutcracker, and I'm gonna get up close so you can see Mr. Nutcracker. Yeah, there he is. There he is, Mr. Gold. I've had this Nutcracker since, I can tell you exactly when. This was given to me by the Grand Rapids Symphony. This is my certificate of parole. Oh, there you go. And says, we hereby present Joseph Conyers with this certificate of release from nutcracking for performance below the stage, above the sewer, and beyond the call of the toy trumpet, in recognition of your dedication and outstanding service, awarded this 21st day of December 2008. This was the last performance I did as a full-time member with the Grand Rapids Symphony before I went to the Atlanta Symphony. So on my way out, they had a nice little ceremony. I got the certificate, and I got my golden Nutcracker immunity idol, keeping me immune from all nutcrackers for the rest of my life. And so far it has actually worked. I played the suite a few times with the Philadelphia Orchestra. I have never played the full Nutcracker ever since. So I thought that would be fun to tell that story and to talk about my wonderful time in the Grand Rapids Symphony. It was playing in a pit is an interesting experience because you are literally below the stage. And because everything is so close and the walls are actually quite close as well, it actually changes how you hear across the orchestra and how you can hear within the orchestra. And it was great, even though there are only 2 of us for the Nutcracker, how much I felt like I could really lead, because people could really hear me in the pit from the bass section, because we had all this resonance around us with the walls and having our sound project in that corner, which is kind of like a nice chamber of sound. So I had some great experiences playing Nutcracker. There are still, when I hear the Nutcracker suite, or if I ever listen to the whole thing, I still listen to the whole thing every once in a while. When I listen to the whole thing, I can still hear the sounds of the stage above me from all those performances now 12 years ago and over 12 years ago with my performances of the Grand Rapids Symphony. That was just, I have so many fond memories because playing in an orchestra like Grand Rapids is very versatile, because we did ballet, we did opera, and we also did symphonic repertoire. So to be able to have that opportunity to play those, I value, play all that different repertoire. I really valued my time there and learned a lot. So there it is, still working, even 12 years later. So, so I am about to do an Instagram post, and in playing the Nutcracker, there is a lick. We're also used to all these, the suites, and they all have the famous tunes in them. And I remember the first time I was looking at the music for this, I got to this one section and was like, what in the world is this? You should check out this music. This is letter C. Oh gosh, what section is this? In scene 7. This will be Act 1, I believe. I'm pretty sure this is Act 1. Scene 7 in Act 1. And if I'm wrong, someone will put it on the screen. But it's this lick where if you can even just figure out what notes you're playing, you are like way ahead of the game, because the first note is a C double sharp, followed by a D sharp, and then there's a D sharp followed by an E sharp. All these great notes we love to play. E sharp followed by an F double sharp, because why not? F double sharp followed by a G sharp to an A sharp to a B natural to a C sharp to a D sharp to an E natural. So let's just see what this sounds like. And some of you might, I know particularly younger bass players might be like, why do composers do that? Why do they write double sharps? And well, honestly, when you look at the page, it's sometimes the only way you can make the notes work. It actually makes it honestly easier to read. Because instead of having D natural to a D sharp, to actually see the C double sharp, and then going to the D sharp is actually easier on the eyes to read one, and harmonically makes sense. So there are two different reasons, mostly because of harmony. It harmonically makes sense, but I guess after you've been a professional, visually it makes more sense too. It's easier to see, because see the D, the natural, the D sharp, and all, so when it's so quick, it could be even more confusing. But that's probably a matter of opinion, because some of you would be like, I don't ever want to see anything double sharp or double flat in my entire career, which I understand. I get it. They can be very traumatic. And just so we all know, just to make sure we're all on the same page, the way the double sharps and double flats work is almost just exactly the way the sharps and the flat work. So if, let's say we had a C natural, a C sharp would be C sharp, and then if it's C double sharp, because we raised one half step with the one sharp, we'll go up another half step for the two sharps. And it ends up being C double sharp, also known as D natural. And we can do this the other way with flats. So you have a C, you do a C flat. I know we all love C flats, right? C flat would be down by half step, which is also a B natural. And then a C double flat, and that's even more confusing, goes down another half step to what sounds like most of us would call a B flat, but could also, of course, be a C double flat. And as I said, the harmony generally tells us when we have to use these flats, double flats, and double sharps. Yeah, I'm sure there's another YouTube video about double flats and double sharps, so I will not go into that. So I'm gonna play this lick. So it's kind of in this, I should have looked this up. It's kind of like this battle scene, if I'm correct. You know what, I've never seen the Nutcracker. I know, I've never seen the Nutcracker, never seen it. I've heard it many times. I've heard the how the feet go, but I've never actually seen the show. So I believe this is a battle scene, though. Yeah, it's very energetic music, and this lick would be a great and terrible, but a great sight reading lick, because it's actually just very. Not only do we have these double sharps, but they're all in with grace notes. So the grace notes make it even harder, because then the notes are even smaller. So the C double sharp is this tiny note with a slash, and we have, so the first lick is, then the pickup, so I'll do it quite slowly, and hopefully we can get the music on the screen so you can see. Slowly. So now I'm going to walk through the notes a little bit. So this is, I'll just say the notes. I can't say all this is a grace note and this is an eighth note. I think you'll have to take that out of in context. So this is the C double sharp to the D sharp, D sharp to the E sharp to the G, E sharp to the F double sharp to the G sharp to the A sharp to the B natural to the C sharp to the D sharp, and the D sharp to the E. So it's the grace note, it's with the grace notes and in a slower tempo. 1, 2, 3. And then it goes on from there. I started upbow because whatever, it's a long story. So that's basically it. So the tricks in this is, how do we play these grace notes? Grace notes can be really difficult if we don't plan ahead. So knowing that the grace notes in this case come before, we have to make sure we're, for me, starting from the string and grabbing the string right away. And you notice I don't have to scoot the bow very far. It's just about getting it to speak. Once I get it to speak, then I can add my first finger for the D sharp and get that to speak right away. And then cut and paste for the rest of the lick. So it works for the up bows as well, which is why our up bows and our down bows should be equal. So you see I start always from the string. And as long as this is nice and tight with the right hand, because all I'm doing is and just keeping that contact, so and that's basically how it works. Yeah, so there's not a whole lot in here to talk about, but there are a few more things I do want to touch on. So for example, it's fortissimo, so it's quite aggressive. It is this battle kind of scene for sure. But even that, we want to have direction. It's just not all loud. So for this, because it's ascending, it's almost like I've talked about this before in Baroque music. As you ascend, you generally get a little bit louder to show the phrase. So in this, you can almost use it as an arrival and to get to these. And these are double sforzandi accents on the D sharp. So the sempre fortissimo. And what's funny, this happens a lot with Tchaikovsky. He has this, I say I think because I actually haven't studied the score on this, but in bar 66, when we do the D-da, we actually join in. There's a lot of that. I mean, that's just compositional writing. Starts off with the higher voices and we join in. And I think he writes that sempre fortissimo so that when we join in, it doesn't sound any weaker than the voices that came before. So he writes that reminder, always fortissimo with the sempre fortissimo. So, and then we just do it again. 4-1. And that goes on for a long time. There's a lot of, if you did Suzuki, lots of run ponies, this whole movement, I mean, if you go further down, I mean, yeah, it starts off very, very early on with this. Yeah, and it's actually a lot of fun. Good. And so let's see what it's like with a metronome. Actually, as I'm doing this, and I hope this is helpful for those who are learning the practice, because I love my metronome. I love my metronome. Yes, I love you. You are so wonderful. I love you, Mr. Metronome. The metronome is great because it keeps us honest in our playing and in our practice. And for me, actually, I use it like a guidepost. And so I would recommend for a lick like this, start it slowly and get it under your fingers. And it's one of those things, when I was young, well, you've probably heard your parents say stuff like this, or folklore or whatever. Like if you want to learn something, like if you have a hard AP Chem test the next day, that if you put your AP Chemistry book underneath your pillow, you'll absorb the knowledge from it. I'm not saying that you should put your bass or your music underneath your pillow, but but there is actually evidence that as we practice, particularly slowly, we are actually in our sleep reviewing the things of the day. You can look it up, because we are actually reviewing the things of the day. So by practicing slowly and working these things into our muscle memory and into our brain, then it allows us to play things more quickly and with more accuracy, and it just becomes easier because it actually becomes more hardwired in our brain. And that goes not only with just playing this lick, but with playing an instrument in general, because that's what we want to do. So I thought it was really important to talk about. Let's make this a little faster. Also might need a little bit of rosin because this bow needs a rehair really badly. And I'm going to be doing this Instagram video, and so I'm putting on, because it's so dry, this bow, or so dry, it's drier because it's cooler than it has been. I'm using this Colstein Soft. It's a little old cake, so it doesn't have the efficacy that would normally have. Good. This is at 110. Gotta get new rosin off. I need to get new rosin off because now it's cacking. I call it cacking. It's like grabbing the string. Just have to work the rosin so it's more evenly distributed, but it definitely feels better. I'll do that again at 110. Faster. I might play this for Instagram because that's, as an audition tempo, that's probably close to where I do it. But that's probably a little, even that's a little slow. Let's try 120. Make sure I don't embarrass myself. Is that good? Let's try 130. I still really might embarrass myself. This might be a little on the slower side for performance, but it's getting closer to performance tempo, so maybe this might be a little closer to an audition tempo. The lick, y'all. So that's a little less known portion of the Nutcracker ballet. The Nutcracker ballet is only, I remember what was great about the Nutcracker. I mean, the music is great too, of course, but what was great about Nutcracker is that it was 2 hours almost on the money, even with the intermission. So it's a lot of great music wrapped up into a very short amount of, well, relatively short amount of time, considering what some ballets can be, and with tons of delightful music, very Tchaikovsky. I remember when I first played it, I was like, wow, it really does sound like Tchaikovsky wrote this piece. Because you hear all these different elements that pop up in the symphonies, and even in some of the chamber music, and yeah, it just has the spirit of Tchaikovsky a lot. So what's great about this is it's a little, this excerpt is not that well known, except for sometimes my understanding, and maybe this was in yesteryear, but this would pop up on even auditions, just I guess to get the clarity, the intonation, and the dexterity to get those grace notes to speak. I'm doing the best I can, y'all. I'm going to listen to myself and see if I have any comments before I make my Instagram video. So I just gave a listen to hear myself, and a few things. One, when I play this, and I was worried about this, when I play the open D, I have to make sure I give enough time for the D to speak so we hear the, because if I don't, it just sounds like, but I call it spelling because sometimes I just feel like I've got to just play that, be extra careful about really grabbing that note so it speaks. The other thing that caught my attention, that's not the right movement, was the lengths of the notes. So I can't get too antiseptic because I'm so worried about playing the actual pitches that I start to shortchange the notes and they start to sound what I call cheap. So if I can, it's hard, it makes it harder, but if I can sustain those a little longer, because otherwise it starts to sound, when I mean by cheap, it just sounds like I'm cutting things off for convenience. I know, sometimes we want to do things for convenience, but Tchaikovsky, I don't think, in music, sometimes disagree with what feels good for us, at least physically. So instead of, because he did write these quarter notes, so I think I should honor the quarter notes. So if I can get that little bit of length. When I do that, make sure I also catch the, so it doesn't sound like, it's sometimes when we have these dissonances going to the resolution, it's very easy to lose the resolution. So, I mean, I don't want to, because particularly since the fourth sound is on the D sharp. I think that's gonna do it, and I gotta hurry because I gotta teach soon. So I'm gonna do some takes and see if any of them are worthy for the gram. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. Now, I know you follow me here on YouTube, but do you know I have a pretty decent Instagram account? If you watch some of my videos, you know I refer to it all the time. So be sure to check me out at Weatherclef at Instagram, and that information is down below. You can check that out in the details below. And then I just started a TikTok account, so I'm on TikTok. So be sure to check that out, also at Weatherclef. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and hit that alert button so you'll get alerts to when I make my next video. Thank you so much for watching.